Dolittle stars Robert Downy Jr. in his first role since Avengers Endgame. He's joined by an impressive cast who voice his CGI-created furry friends that join him on his adventure to save Queen Victoria by finding a special fruit on a mysterious island. The movie is filled with talking animals and adventure that are sure to impress children, but what about parents? Well, Dolittle is full of jokes that only adults are going to understand.
Me.
Okay, stop.
This
is a family movie.
And some of them are pretty uncomfortable. If you either missed them, couldn't understand Robert Downy Jr.'s Welsh accent, or just haven't seen the movie and want a little recap, then buckle up because we're about to get down and dirty with Dolittle. And be aware that there are some light spoilers ahead. John Cena voices Yoshi, a positive and hat-wearing polar bear. But Yoshi makes a comment that suggests life as a polar bear isn't so fun. He says that as a kid, his father left to get a pack of seals and never came back.
I have nipples, Greg. Can you milk me?
Okay. Yes.
This joke has been made plenty of times before, so parents are sure to spot the reference to runaway fathers and their packs of cigarettes. And Yoshi is an anxiety-ridden oddball of a polar bear who hates being cold and loves sunbathing. So maybe his father's disappearance affected him a lot more than children are going to realize. Plus, parents who recognize John Cena's voice are going to see the irony of a popular wrestler taking on the role of a nervous, heat-seeking polar bear.
What bird stuff can you do?
Well, what bear stuff can you do?
The character who cracks the most adult jokes is James the Dragonfly, voice acted by Jason Mantzoukas. When James realized his aunt girlfriend is about to get married to someone else, we get to see a dragonfly and an ant act out a famous scene from The Godfather that parents are sure to recognize. Plus, what better placement for a mafia scene than in a tight-knit ant society? Of course, the film uses the "you come to me on my daughter's wedding day" scene because James is about to cause some chaos in the colony by ruining their big day. James the Dragonfly doesn't stop there. When he finds out his girlfriend, well, I guess ex-girlfriend, is marrying a scorpion, he makes a pretty suggestive comment. James asks, "What does a scorpion have that I don't have? A huge stinger?" This joke is hard to miss. And while kids might get a good laugh out of the dragonfly-scorpion rivalry, adults are sure to notice that the bad blood between the two is a little more personal. Because he's on a roll at this point, James has another comment for one of Dolittle's feathered friends. When James joins Dolittle on his ship, he recognizes one of the birds that's been traveling with him. He says, "Oh, I haven't seen you in a while. Your feathers filled out nicely." We've got to assume that the feather here is a euphemism for other things that are on your chest that can fill out nicely. And since James seems like he flies in a few different circles, we're going to go ahead and say that he's a bit of a player. There's a good bit of butt humor in this film. One instance takes inspiration from the 1998 Dr. Dolittle, starring Eddie Murphy, in which a dog gets a thermometer lost in its butt and a veterinarian has to retrieve it.
Don't you touch that.
It's heading in. It's going south for the winter.
I see.
Well, in this updated Dolittle, a creature much bigger than a dog is having some tummy troubles. Frances de la Tour voices Dragon, which is, you guessed it, a huge dragon. After she saves Dolittle and his friends by helping him defeat the bad guys, Dolittle realizes that she's pretty sick. He decides to give her a rectal exam. This results in him pulling out things like armor and swords, suggesting that the dragon has had quite the feast recently. Kids might not be made uncomfortable by the idea of giving a huge creature a rectal exam, but there's something incredibly unsettling about seeing Robert Downy Jr. stick his arm up the behind of anything. The discomfort doesn't get better when Downey finally pulls his arm out of the creature. Once Dolittle has removed the blockage, the dragon farts for a good 30 seconds right in Dolittle's face. His hair and clothes are blowing in the wind. While it's a laughing moment for children watching the movie, we can't help but imagine how it would feel to be on the wrong end of a dragon fart. And it seems like a pretty bad deal for Dolittle to get covered in fart right after he saves the dragon. But then the dragon turns from red to blue and helps them get the fruit they were looking for. So I guess it was worth it in the end.
I'm too beautiful to
It's a good thing that Dolittle has a lot of animal friends, big and small, to help him out on his journey. When he's being attacked by the Queen's treacherous aide Mudfly on his ship, a pod of whales show up to lend a hand. As they breach and jump out of the water, one whale says to his friend, "I can't believe you're flipping him off." Well, whales have flippers, and flipping someone off is a pretty rude gesture, so props to the writers for sneaking this one in for parents to have a chuckle at. Near the beginning of the movie, Fleming the Squirrel, voiced by Craig Robinson, is brought to Dolittle after he's shot. Tommy Stubbins, played by Harry Collette, is the one who injured him and also the one who brings him to the doctor, because Tommy loves animals and he never wanted to hurt one in the first place. After Dolittle saves the squirrel's life, we see that Fleming is going to have a hard time getting over his ordeal. The squirrel has post-traumatic stress disorder, which is referenced through his flashbacks to being shot and general anxiety after the incident. Kids might just see a terrified and erratic squirrel, but adults will recognize that the worst isn't yet over for this furry little guy.
This is very bad.
If you haven't already, remember to subscribe to ScreenRant and turn on notifications to make sure that you get the latest content. On mobile, you can go to your YouTube settings and turn it on from there. Now back to business. Dolittle's trusted sidekick is an ostrich named Plimpton, voiced by Kumail Nanjiani. Plimpton is always cracking jokes and sticking his head in things when he gets nervous.
I'm just a girl standing in front of a boy, asking him to love her.
Okay, I'm under the impression Plimpton got the wrong pages.
But the funniest thing that kids probably didn't notice is the ostrich's thick eyebrows. If you've seen Kumail's work before in films like The Big Sick, then you surely recognize his signature eyebrows on the character. It's a fun little touch that gives the ostrich some extra personality, and the distinction is important since he's such an important part of Dolittle's life. Mudfly, played by Michael Sheen, is Queen Victoria's aide, and also the one who's been poisoning her. When Dolittle travels to Queen Victoria's bedside to check on her condition, Mudfly is pulling out a leech that he's planning to place on the Queen for leech therapy. Since the film takes place in 19th century England, leech therapy actually makes sense as a form of historical medical treatment. So it looks like Mudfly is doing his best to look like he's at least trying to help. He also tells Dolittle that the Queen only has a week left at best. This is a likely prognosis for anyone who was seriously injured in the 19th century. Kids won't notice, but a props to the writers for including a little historical medical humor for the parents who like that stuff. And that's not where the historical references end. The film is based on the novel The Voyages of Dr. Dolittle, published in 1922. While the events are fictional, it is set in a realistic England in the early to mid 1800s. So when Dolittle is required to have an escort because there are enemies everywhere, this is probably a reference to England's conflict with the French and German. And when Dolittle has to fight a giant tiger in a duel, it's actually a trial by combat, something that would have actually been done in England between two people who had to settle an argument.
Hello, Patty. Hello, lunch.
Here are some quick bonus references you may have missed. The animation during the first 10 minutes of the movie is done in a very similar style to another movie starring Robert Downy Jr. called A Scanner Darkly from 2006. The animation was done in a way that brings live-action filmmaking into an animated dream world, and this cannot be a coincidence. When Tommy accidentally shoots Fleming, he is actually aiming at a duck. The shot of him looking down the barrel looks just like the video released for Duck Hunt in 1984. Speaking of ducks, have you ever heard the saying, like water off a duck's back? It means that a comment or harmful remark directed towards a person will just slide off their back and not affect them. A duck's oily feathers actually do let water slide right off of them. In one scene, Dab Dab, voiced by Octavia Spencer, gets spit on but says, not to worry, it'll just slide right off. Dolittle marks the team up of two major Marvel stars who seem to be close both on and off screen.
I wasn't actually that bad. That came out way better than I thought it would.
Tom Holland plays Spider-Man in the MCU alongside Robert Downy Jr.'s Iron Man. In Dolittle, Holland voices Jip, the bespectacled shaggy dog who makes a lot of butt jokes.
Something smelled wrong. And that's coming from a guy who loves the smell of butts.
Ooh, you do love butt.
He's definitely having fun with the role, and we're sure he and Robert Downy Jr. kept their bromance going behind the scenes. So, did you catch all of these jokes and references in Dolittle? Do you have any favorites that we missed? Let us know in the comments, and be sure to like and subscribe to ScreenRant for more. Thanks for watching.
Are we rolling? Great. I live my life a quarter mile at a time.